Hi everyone. Today I am going to explain the MCQs from the herpes viridae family, which are most important for you to appear for certain competitive examinations. This is the first one is which of the following is not a characteristic feature of herpes viruses? Option A is latency, B is double-stranded DNA, C is intranuclear replication, and D is non-enveloped or bullet-shaped virus. So which of the following is not a characteristic feature? If you see the first option A, the most important property of herpes viruses is the latency. That means soon after their entry into the body, they retain in the tissues or cells, and whenever the opportunity comes for those organisms in the form of decreased cell-mediated immune response, then they can reactivate and produce the clinical manifestation. So that is very important property. And if you see the genome is double-stranded DNA, and it replicates intranuclearly and produces Cowdrey type A inclusion bodies. And this is enveloped virus and spherical shaped. So here we can choose the option D as not a characteristic feature. And next one is what is that? The pick up a member of alpha herpes viridae subfamily. So this herpes viridae family will be divided into three subfamilies: alpha, beta, and gamma herpes viridae. Among them, the herpes simplex virus 1 and 2 and varicella zoster virus comes under herpes alpha herpes viridae, whereas cytomegalovirus comes under beta herpes viridae and Epstein-Barr virus comes under gamma herpes viridae, including human herpes virus 8. So the answer would be C. And third one is which of the following is rapidly growing among herpes viruses? If you see all the members of the herpes viridae, the members of alpha herpes viridae are rapid growers, and the members of beta and gamma herpes viridae are slow growers. So accordingly, if you see the varicella zoster virus comes under the alpha herpes viridae, and Epstein-Barr virus, cytomegalovirus comes under gamma as well as beta herpes viridae. So the answer would be varicella zoster virus. Not only varicella zoster virus, even herpes simplex virus 1 and 2 also rapid growers. Next, the fourth one is all are true about herpes simplex viruses except. So what are the true? That means which is false related to herpes simplex virus. The centripetal migration and latency in trigeminal and sacral ganglion, fever blisters are seen and transmitted through body fluids. And if you see here, the latency in trigeminal and sacral ganglion, an important property of herpes simplex virus 1 and 2, and fever blisters are seen associated with fever with appearance of rash in case of herpes simplex viral infections, and they can get transmitted through broad body fluids like saliva and also the semen and other body fluids. So the answer would be the centripetal distribution, which is the rash seen in case of varicella zoster viral infection in the form of chickenpox, which shows the centripetal migration. So this is not related to the herpes simplex virus, related to the varicella zoster virus. So the answer would be A. Then causative agent for Kaposi's varicella rash. So this is otherwise known as eczema herpeticum, and this Kaposi's varicella rash is secondary to eczema. So the people who are suffering with eczematous lesions will suffer with a lot of aberrations like the open wounds in the skin through which the viruses can get transmitted and produces a severe form of vesicular lesions. So because of its severity, it's known as Kaposi's varicella rash. So it's produced by herpes simplex virus one mostly, but not related to Epstein-Barr virus, cytomegalovirus. And sixth one is herpes simplex virus encephalitis is characterized by except. That means which of the following is not related to herpes simplex viral encephalitis. Option A is common viral infection in the central nervous system. It's a well-known fact. And IV acyclovir is preferable. Oral acyclovir is preferable for the vesicular rash, but encephalitis we have to use IV acyclovir, and it's most of the times a self-limiting disease. And D, cause is reactivation of virus in children. Remember, herpes simplex virus encephalitis always or most of the times primary infection in children, but in case of adults it's a reactivation of the previous or old infection. So the cause is reactivation of virus is false answer as far as HSV encephalitis is concerned. The reactivation of this virus results in encephalitis among the adults but not in children. Next one, Jung cells are seen in herpes simplex virus, cytomegalovirus and Epstein-Barr virus. See, in case of vesicular rash produced by the herpes simplex virus, if you collect the scrapings from the base of the vesicle and if you do the smear and after staining with either toluidine blue or right stain or Jameson stain, you can see the multinucleated giant cells like this. This multinucleated giant cells are seen with the peripheral chromatin. These cells are known as Jung cells. So the Jung cells are seen in herpes simplex virus infection. And eighth one is which of the following is not associated with adulthood chickenpox? Which of the following is not associated with adulthood chickenpox? So the bullous, option A is bullous and hemorrhagic lesions, which is very important type of lesions produced in adult chickenpox. And interstitial pneumonia by the virus is common in case of adulthood chickenpox. So that's also a correct answer. And post-viral encephalitis, that is due to either reactivation or reactivation of this virus in later life, is a common feature in adulthood. That's also correct answer. But human herpes virus 4, the chickenpox is produced by the human herpes virus 3. So here we mentioned that human herpes virus 4, that is nothing but cytomegalovirus. That's why this is again the wrong related to the adulthood chickenpox. So the answer is D. And next one is false statement about chickenpox. Yes, which is false. That means there are three important the true statements are there. One is a false one. A option is live attenuated vaccine available. Yes, the live attenuated vaccine is available against the chickenpox, which has to be given at the age of more than 1 year of age, and we have to give 2 doses with 6 months apart. That's B option is centripetal distribution of lesions. Yes, correct. The lesions always appear in the central part of the body and from there it distributes to other areas of the body. And C option is teratogenic virus. Yes, this virus is responsible for teratogenicity in the form of limb hypoplasia. Limb hypoplasia is common with this this particular viral infection. And D is mild form. This is a mild form in adults. This is wrong statement or false statement. Always this is very severe in the adulthood stage with this chickenpox. And 10th one is mode of transmission of varicella zoster virus. Option A is inoculation, B is ingestion, C is parenteral route, and D is inhalation. Remember, herpes simplex virus 1 and 2 can get transmitted by means of inoculation through the skin abrasions or openings in the skin, and also from the mucosal breaches. But ingestion is not at all related to the varicella zoster virus, and parenteral route also not possible. Inhalation is the main mode of transmission in case of varicella zoster virus. This is the only one virus which can get transmitted by means of inhalation. So the mode of transmission is important as far as the varicella zoster virus is concerned, that is inhalation. And 11th one is false about creeping girdle, otherwise called shingles. Option A is a reactivation of latent human herpes virus 3, that is nothing but varicella zoster virus. And B is painless rash. C is distribution from thoracic level D3 to L2 is a commonly involved, and D option is lesions or unilateral. Remember, creeping girdle or shingles is a reactivation of the varicella zoster virus during the later life or in the adult stage, elderly people. And these are a highly painful rash. The rash which is appearing is highly painful. So this is also this is actually the false option related to this shingles, and commonly involved D3 L2 level, and the lesions are unilateral, confined to one half of the body. So the option is B. And 12th one is pick up the salivary gland virus. So the virus which was first isolated from the salivary gland, that is nothing but a cytomegalovirus. And because this virus can make the infected cells to enlarge enormously, so that's why later it was named as cytomegalovirus. But the first the name given for this was salivary gland virus, since it was isolated from the salivary glands. So the answer is B here. And 13th one is acyclovir is highly ineffective in the treatment of cytomegaloviral infections because option A is high rate of mutation, lacks the enzyme thymidine kinase, drug is not accessible to virus in tissues, and virus codes for an enzyme that inactivates the drug. Here the option is B, because the acyclovir, the active form of acyclovir is acyclovir triphosphate. So to produce this, to convert the acyclovir into the acyclovir triphosphate, the thymidine kinase is required. But in case of cytomegaloviruses, the thymidine kinase enzyme is not there. So whatever the drug you give, that is acyclovir, can't get converted into acyclovir triphosphate, so it's not useful. So acyclovir is not useful to treat the cytomegaloviral infections because these viruses are lacking the enzyme thymidine kinase. Next, 14th one is infected cells with voles, eye appearance seen in these infected cells. If you see this here, this is the infected cell. This infected cell will show the owl's eye appearance. The big cell with owl's eye appearance is seen in case of cytomegaloviral infection. In the herpes simplex viral infection, you can see the junk cells, not the owl's eye appearing cells. And the human herpes virus 3, that is chickenpox virus, so you can't see that. So infected cells with owl's eye appearance is seen in case of cytomegalovirus. And here also you can see there is a kind of rash seen in cytomegaloviral inclusion disease of newborn. So the newborns which are born with the cytomegaloviral infection may suffer with this kind of lesions. And foscarnet is useful for the resistant cases of cytomegaloviral infections due to, one is effective by oral route. Foscarnet usually will be given always intravascular route, and action is independent of thymidine kinase. That's the right answer, because the foscarnet in case of resistant cases with ganciclovir, we have to go for foscarnet because the action of this particular foscarnet is independent of thymidine kinase. So this foscarnet can act on this particular organism and completely removes the virus and highly effective than acyclovir. Acyclovir is not at all useful in cytomegaloviral infections, so there is no question of highly effectiveness or low effectiveness related to acyclovir against the cytomegalovirus. And it completely removes the virus is wrong answer, because no viral, herpes viral infections will remove totally with the treatment. Only thing is we can reduce the severity, or we can reduce the reactivation of the virus, but we can't remove the viruses totally from the infected individual. So the foscarnet is useful in case of resistant cases of cytomegalovirus, because its action is independent of thymidine kinase enzyme. And next, the 16th one is, which of the following is false about Epstein-Barr viral infection? So which is false? That means there are three truths are there in this particular options. One is glandular fever. Yes, this is called as Epstein-Barr virus produces an important disease, that is infectious mononucleosis, because of severe sore throat with fever and severe painful cervical lymphadenopathy. This is known as glandular fever. So the glandular fever is related to Epstein-Barr virus. It's a carcinogenic herpes virus. Yes, this is the virus which produces Burkitt's lymphoma as well as the nasopharyngeal carcinoma. So Epstein-Barr virus is associated with cancers. And C option is wet kissing is highly contagious. Yes, this is also correct answer, because to transmit this virus from the infected individual to normal individual, it requires large quantities of infected material. So these large quantities of infected material can get transmitted from the infected individual to the normal individual by means of wet kissing due to transmission of salivary secretions. So wet kissing is highly contagious. That's also correct answer. D is droplets are highly infectious. Droplets are infectious but not highly infectious, because always remember, to transmit the Epstein-Barr virus from the infected individual to not normal individual, it requires large quantity of inoculum or large quantities of sample, infected sample. So that is not possible by means of droplets. So droplets are highly infectious is the wrong answer. So the above three are right answers. Next, 17. Epstein-Barr virus is not associated with infectious mononucleosis. That is correct answer. That is associated with Epstein-Barr virus, Burkitt's lymphoma, nasopharyngeal carcinoma, and Kaposi's sarcoma. This Kaposi's sarcoma produced by human herpes virus 8, but Epstein-Barr virus is human herpes virus 5. So Kaposi's sarcoma produced by human herpes virus 8. Rest of the IMN and Burkitt's lymphoma and nasopharyngeal carcinomas are produced by human herpes virus 5. That is nothing but Epstein-Barr virus. 18th one, diagnostic criteria for Epstein-Barr viral infections except. That means which of the following is not a diagnostic criteria, which among the four. First one is Paul-Bunner test. Paul-Bunner test is a heterophil antibody detection test, and even though it's not specific and sensitive test, still Paul-Bunner test is used to diagnose Epstein-Barr virus, which is a tube agglutination test. And B, atypical lymphocytes are seen, definitely otherwise called Downey's cells, are seen in the peripheral blood in case of Epstein-Barr virus, which is also a diagnostic criteria for Epstein-Barr virus. And C option is polyclonal activation of the B cells, as these viruses are responsible for the uncontrolled proliferation of B lymphocytes, which results in polyclonal activation of the B cells. And D option is virus in saliva is not the diagnostic criteria, because even asymptomatic individuals also can shed these viruses from their oropharyngeal secretions. So the simple presence of this virus in saliva should not considered as the person is suffering with Epstein-Barr viral infections, otherwise called active form of Epstein-Barr viral infections. So this is a Burkitt's lymphoma, where you can see commonly among the African children, the jaw gets involved and you can see the lymphoma like that. And next one is etiological agent for roseola infantum. Roseola infantum, it's a severe form of rash, along with high grade fever seen in children. That is mainly produced by the human herpes virus 6 and 7. Human herpes virus 3, that's responsible for chickenpox. Human herpes virus 4 is cytomegalovirus, it won't produce any rash. And human herpes virus 5, it is this human herpes, that is that's Epstein-Barr virus, that's also not associated with the rash in children. So the roseola infantum is a severe form of rash with high grade fever seen in children, caused by human herpes virus 6. And herpetic gladiatorum is common among, see, that's A is dentist, and B is restless, C is both, and D is none. See, the dentists usually suffer with herpetic whitlow. Toddlers and dentists will suffer with herpetic whitlow, not the herpetic gladiatorum. Herpetic gladiatorum is common among the wrestlers. So among the wrestlers, if anybody is infected, has got the infection already with these herpes viruses, so while wrestling, these viruses can get transmitted from the infected individual to other individual. That is known as herpetic gladiatorum. And the next one is the initial infection with human cytomegalovirus is most commonly occurs in initial infection. Of course, human beings by the age of 15 to 20 years, by teenage, more than 85 to 90% of the people will get will be seropositive for cytomegalovirus. But here question is how the initial infection will occur in case of humans with cytomegalovirus. Option A is during early childhood by exchange of body fluids. That is the correct answer, because during the early childhood the babies will be handled by the adults because of their cuteness or something else. So if the elderly people are the people who are handling the children, if they have got the infection, through their body secretions, these viruses can get transmitted from them to the children. So that's initial infection is commonly during the early childhood by exchange of body fluids. Of course, this cytomegalovirus also can get transmitted through the placenta and by means of sexual contact and even by blood transfusion also. But these are all common in later life, but not in the initial stages of life. And next one is a cellular immune response. Typical of infectious mononucleosis is due to, so cellular immune response typical of IMN is due to, answer option A is stimulation of B cell proliferation, B is a primary humoral response, and proliferation of cytotoxic T cells, and D is phagocytosis. So cellular immune response is mainly responsible for all the clinical manifestations seen in case of herpes viral infections. So due to the enormous proliferation of the cytotoxic T cells responsible for cytolysis of the infected cells, which results in all clinical manifestations. So cellular immune response in case of infectious mononucleosis is due to proliferation of cytotoxic T cells. 23rd one, steroids are contraindicated in ophthalmic herpes infection, because that means why steroids should not be used in herpes zoster ophthalmicus. Answer A is causes scleral calcifications, it leads to stromal involvement, it leads to glaucoma, it leads to optic atrophy. Optic atrophy means atrophy of the optic nerve. Glaucoma means increased pressure in the anterior chamber of the eye, and its involvement of stroma of the eye gets involved, which cause for the so many other problems. So the stromal involvement is the main contraindication for treating in case of ophthalmic herpes infections. And causes scleral calcification is not related to the scleral calcifications in case of ophthalmic herpes infection. And Downey's cells, 24th one is Downey's cells are not seen in the following condition. As I mentioned already, the Downey's cells are nothing but atypical lymphocytes. These atypical lymphocytes seen in case of Epstein-Barr viral infections, that's infectious mononucleosis, where you can see the big cell, lymphocytic cell, with a big nucleus and peripheral light colored cytoplasm, and which that particular cells are hugged by the varieties of many number of RBCs. So that means around that particular cell many number of RBCs are seen, that is they are known as Downey's cells, seen in infectious mononucleosis, seen in cytomegaloviral infections, and seen in toxoplasmosis, which is a parasitic infection produced by Toxoplasma gondii. But remember, in case of herpes simplex virus 1, we can't see this particular Downey's cells. So Jung cells are seen, but not the Downey's cells here. So here you can see this is the Downey's cell. This one is Downey's cell. This big lymphocyte, which is surrounded by many number of RBCs. It's a typical of this particular viral infection by Epstein-Barr virus, cytomegalovirus, and in case of toxoplasmosis, but not with herpes simplex virus 1. So that's the reason why that would be the option for this particular question. And next one is herpes virus associated with Kaposi's sarcoma. That means which herpes virus is associated with Kaposi's sarcoma. What is Kaposi's sarcoma? Kaposi's sarcoma is an endothelial, a sarcoma of endothelial origin of the vasculature. Endothelial cells of the vasculature gets involved in case of Kaposi's sarcoma, and where you can see the red or pink colored mass like this, especially on the oral cavity you can see, and the gums area you can see this particular Kaposi's sarcoma, and this is produced by human herpes virus 8. 6 and 7 produces Roseola infantum, and Epstein-Barr virus produces other things like nasopharyngeal carcinoma and Burkitt's lymphoma, but not the Kaposi's sarcoma. This is produced by human herpes virus 8. Next, characteristic corneal ulcers produced by herpes simplex virus. See, oval ulcers, perforating ulcers, pyogenic ulcers, and dendritic ulcers. Usually the oval ulcers, there is no specificity. Perforating ulcers are commonly produced by traumatic injuries. Pyogenic ulcers are produced by some staphylococci and some other bacteria. But dendritic ulcers, that means the ulcers with branching seen in case of herpes simplex virus viral infections. So the characteristic ulcer in case of herpes simplex viral infection is dendritic ulcer or branching ulcer. Next, 27, congenital herpes simplex virus infections may be presented as. Congenital herpes simplex viral infections may be presented as. It may present either in the form of encephalitis or in the form of vesicular lesions on the skin, eye, mouth. So the congenital infections in case of herpes simplex virus may be manifested in the form of encephalitis or skin lesions or eye lesions or mouth involvement. So the answer would be both. So this is I think the last one, and thank you very much for your patient hearing and learning. Thank you very much for watching.